Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. And Adam, as we sit here today, it's been exactly 1 week, maybe not with the exact time, but about 1 week since the firing of Doug Peterson. It's kind of felt like a year.
In a way, yeah.
It's felt like an eternity. It's felt like eternity. And not only that, the list of Eagles head coaching candidates also seems like it's eternal as well, as we had some new names surface over the weekend. So we'll get into that, get into a few minor transactions. We'll talk about some coaching staff, not named head coach, and call it a podcast after that. So really, I wanted to tell people before we get started that I thought we had a really good YouTube interview last week on ITB TV that everybody should check out. It got some really good buzz immediately, because it was different. We had Greg Cosell on, and we started off talking about the two quarterbacks who, we'll see where they land. They could be there for the Eagles at 6. You never know how it's going to happen. Obviously not Trevor Lawrence. He broke down Justin Fields, and he broke down BYU's Zach Wilson. And then we went into an NFL playoff preview. But I thought it was pretty interesting what he had to say about Fields and Wilson.
It was. Greg had these are the first two quarterbacks he's seen. And, I asked him, I just wanted to hear what he had to say. And I was so intrigued by what he had to say. I'm like, hey, could we talk about this on the air?
Right.
And he's like, all right. But as what always happens with Greg is when he's reluctant because it's early in his tape study, it winds up being like a great segment where he does a deep dive, and we got in the weeds about it on both quarterbacks. And the Fields one is going to be polarizing because there's so much, he's so gifted. The knock on him is he misses too many throws where you go, man, well, how did you miss that one? But then you see so many great plays from the guy.
Right.
So he's intriguing. Wilson's one of the high risers for this draft. So we'll see what happens. But that was fun. And by the way, that's also available on podcasts. So you can get it on YouTube. Apparently, a lot of people responded to my comment on the last show. A lot of people apparently have let us know there's certain reasons why they watch us on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. I saw that. That's right.
Yeah. So it's cool. Good. Look, our YouTube traffic is like super up. So I'm glad we're doing that stuff.
Somebody actually pointed out like 2 pods ago that my long sleeve shirt, my buttons were crossed. Like I had the lower button in the top. I gotta say, I thought I was pretty meticulous as just being a reporter, but people are way more keen on those things than I am. So congratulations.
Yeah, and they love to point out your different plaid shirts, or when you wear the same one, they want to know why.
Listen here, I'd be happy to tell everybody right now. I'm a fairly low maintenance person. I don't have a lot of expensive clothes, and we've been in a pandemic obviously since March, so I have even fewer reasons to be wearing nice clothes. All the shirts you see, they're clean. I wash them. I just don't feel the need to throw on, And for whatever reason, I got a lot of shirts that are checkered or plaid or whatever, just like this one I'm wearing now. I'm a simple guy. That's it. I just find some shirts.
Oh, man.
Listen, I'll raise my hand. My wife buys most of my wardrobe. I'll raise my hand and say that.
Now, I buy all my clothes, and I wear a lot of Tommy Bahama. So if you guys want to get on me for wearing a lot of Tommy Bahama, knock yourself.
You and Andy Reid.
Yep, it's definitely different. I'm down 27 pounds. Andy's, where Andy is.
Yeah, but, all the nail biters that he's been in.
My God, yes, that Sunday game. Are you serious? Well, Championship Sunday is going to be very interesting. How about the Bucks? Oh my God!
Now, did I tell you? We'll talk about this a little later, but didn't I tell you the Saints are not to be trusted in the playoffs anymore?
Yes. Look what happened last year against Minnesota. They put a new defensive front in. They came out with a defense they had not seen before.
That's right.
And Jay Glazer reported on Sunday from Fox that this is his last game, no matter what, as a Saint. Wow.
Breeze?
Yeah, Breeze. Yeah. So Taysom Hill right now would be their starter in 2021. Get him in a dynasty league. Taysom Hill, man. Let's go.
Wow. Now, what's going to be the fate of Dan Campbell? Is he going to wind up being the Lions coach, you think? Is that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Barring a snag. Now they can negotiate the contract. Yeah.
Right.
Again, barring something unforeseen. And we'll get into some of the coaches that are on this list, because one of these coaches might actually wind up working with Dan Campbell. We'll see.
No, that's very interesting. And I also think what makes that relevant to our podcast is that it's now down to 2 then. It's down to Philadelphia and it's down to Houston as the only head coaching jobs available.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the Chargers are not The Chargers.
That's true. They haven't.
Right. Daboll is expected to. He's close with Tom Telesco. They grew up together, the GM of the Chargers. But, look, this list is mostly offense. We're going to add some names to it. We got some new notes from our sources that are interesting. And Sunday night, they're meeting with Josh McDaniels. That's an interesting one there. But a lot of different names. Whereas the 13th search, Geoff, it was Chip Kelly, Chip Kelly, and then it wasn't Chip. Then they were like scrambling, and then Chip said, you know what, I went back in, and that was that.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you think Jeffrey had a sense that after he fired Doug and he did his press conference, and again, this is about a week ago, that he was very unlikely to get a couple of guys like Saleh and Arthur Smith because they were later in the process, and the Jets were going to probably hire quick. Do you think that's why Jeffrey cast a wide net and said he was going to take his time because he probably knew he wasn't going to get hot candidate number 1 and 2 right off the bat?
That I can't answer because only he would know, but I do know this, and you just mentioned it. Arthur Smith, I was told Tuesday night or Wednesday morning that it was almost certain he was going to go to Atlanta. I'm not even sure why he interviewed, other than maybe if there's a potential snag, obviously then Smith would need another team. He did very well in his interview. The Falcons wanted him. He was the number 1 candidate. I didn't know that 2 weeks ago, but to start the week, as I was talking to a lot of people around the league, he was the guy that everybody wanted to talk to, and probably 2 or 3 teams. I think if it didn't emerge from the coaching community and the coaching agents that Arthur Smith was the guy, I think the Eagles might have. He might have gotten a second interview with the Eagles, but it never got there because everyone knew he was going to Atlanta. So that kind of ended that. And Saleh blew the Jets away in his first his Zoom session, and then they brought him in, and that was it. They knew he was the guy.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. I had a feeling that he was going to interview well. I mean, again, different strokes for different folks, but knowing Joe Douglas and what kind of guy he is, I had a feeling that Saleh was going to be able to knock the socks off.
Nice story. By the way, before we get over the rest of the Eagles list and detail our notes.
I'm trying to adjust my light here.
Okay. Saleh is one of these guys who, if you talk to people who work with him, like with the Jaguars, and very early in his career, no one saw this. But sometimes coaches grow up. They show they start to feel more comfortable with themselves as coaches. They're less reserved. Like Saleh privately is actually fairly reserved, but as a coach, everybody sees him with fist pumps and all that. They say the Niners felt this is his best coaching job, even better than last year when they went to the Super Bowl, because they had an awful injuries, the worst of the National Football League by far. No one even close to them with injuries. No one on defense, and the COVID issue. And he found different ways to coach. And sometimes, you know what? You got to do that. You got to change it up. And the hiring of the Y9 guy that was Schwartz's guy, Chris Kusarik, that was a great hire for him last year because they went to the Y9, and that was because a lot of people around the league thought he was going to come with Schwartz, come here to Philly, but he didn't. He chose the Niners, and boy, I'll tell you what, that took their defense to the next level. But they feel like this is his best coaching job, and he's been a great story of development at 41 years old.
Right, definitely. And you know what? I as an impartial observer, I look forward to seeing the future of the Jets with Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh there, kind of two like-minded guys running the organization. It looked like Douglas's first draft wasn't bad. I mean, a lot to be determined, but once he got healthy, Denzel Mims had some pretty decent games. He was their second-round pick. Yep. I thought Becton, when he played, looked fantastic. So he's going to be a pretty good left tackle. Ashton Davis got a lot of playing time. He was, I think, their third-round pick. So, I mean, it looks like they did all right there in the draft. So we'll have to see as they build it forward. Adam, I want to address something that I see on social media a lot about the Eagles. And so I want to just do this as objectively as possible without calling people out or trying to be hysterical, right? It's just because when you say certain things that are true, people have sometimes negative reactions to them, even though it's the truth. So we've said it on the podcast. I know I've written it even and said it as well. And Joe Banner actually said it as well to Paul Domowitch recently in a story that Paul wrote.
Okay.
It was about whether or not the Eagles' job is considered an attractive job. And for many of the reasons that you and I outlined last pod and the one before that, it's not the most attractive job. They have an unsettled quarterback situation. They have a very bad cap situation for 1 year, but it still counts. It's next year. You've got an inherited GM who has survived 2 head coaches already. I'm sorry, 3 head coaches, and a real buy-in to analytics that may not everybody love, right? Okay, so those are just 4 things. So it's just not gonna. There were other jobs that had entrenched quarterbacks or more cap space. So that's why we've been saying it's not exactly the most attractive job. Now, when you say that, and because people reach out to us on social media, or I saw the responses, people think like you're ragging on the Eagles and ignoring their past and all the playoffs that they've been to. No, that's not the case. And then when you see the Eagles interview somebody like a Robert Saleh or Brandon Staley, people say, so how could it unattractive it be? They're interviewing. Well, the reality is, as you just mentioned before, guys interview for jobs. They want to find out. They want to do fact finding. It doesn't mean that after the interview that they love that job. In fact, it could mean that they didn't. So that's just one thing. And the other part I want to add to that is that it's not like an offensive thing. Like, we're just saying that that's the way the league views the job right now. It's not considered a great scenario. There are some scenarios where you're like, yes, I love this organization. I love this owner. I love their cap space. I love their quarterback, and things are great. And the Eagles just aren't that situation right now.
Yeah, it always, Geoff, if you talk to any head coach candidates, they're always going to ask who the quarterback is. That's the most important thing to them.
Right.
There's no close second. It's quarterback. If you don't have the quarterback, it's going to be an issue. Unless there's an asterisk. Tons of cap space, tons of draft picks. Hello, Jacksonville Jaguars. First pick overall.
Absolutely.
So that's the exception to the rule. Now, what people want to know, what are the positives? Obviously, the owner, in terms of willingness to spend money, all he does is want to win. The quarterback position means everything to him. If you want to know why Doug Peterson isn't the head coach, listen to our emergency show. Listen to the last. If you're new to our show, listen to the last 6 weeks. I mean, we detailed exactly what was going to happen. I mean, it was going to come down to who's going to be coaching the quarterbacks, and whether it was the head coach or the passing game coordinator / quarterbacks coach, whoever was involved with them, it was always going to be about who's going to be coaching them and do they have confidence in that. And the answer was Jeffrey Lurie did not agree with Doug Peterson on who Doug wanted to coach the quarterbacks. That's number one issue. Then you can look at the other ones, look at the rest of his staff that maybe Jeffrey didn't agree with. So it's always going to come down to the quarterbacks, folks. It'll never change. It always starts.
There you go. And it also, the second point I wanted to make, it does not mean that, because some people are like, well, someone's going to take the job. They're going to hire somebody. Of course, we know that. When we say it's not an attractive job, it doesn't mean that they're going to not be able to hire a head coach. Of course, they're going to be able to hire a head coach. And it doesn't mean that guy's not going to be a good coach. Same thing that we say about Andy Reid in '99. Nobody knew who he was. The Eagles were the only one to be interested, only one to interview him, and it worked out really well. So it's not even our way of saying that the Eagles are doomed. It's just the reality of the situation, perception right now.
And of course, they're all tied together. If Wentz had been Wentz, obviously Peterson would still have his job, and we're not talking about this.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is Wentz is where he is. We detailed, if you listen to our Friday show, we detailed what I'd heard from my sources on some of the questions that the interviewees were asked. And they were a lot about Wentz. You could hear that on our Friday. That came out 6 a.m. Eastern on Friday. So you could hear that. And Geoff and I have heard some stuff which we're getting into today. And look, the thing is they've got a wide net, man. A lot of top offensive coaches, a lot of smart guys, some defensive coaches which we're going to get into, and some guys are off the grid. Saleh, Arthur Smith, and Daboll. But unless Daboll's unless that falls through, so the list is shrinking a little bit. But the guys that the remaining 8 or 9 are really good. By the way, very good list.
Yes, there are definitely some good head coaches out there. We will get into some of them on the Eagles list. First, we'll tell you, go to phlsportsnation.com and check out all their great coverage and content. They are enhancing the fan experience with all of their coverage of Philadelphia sports teams like nobody else. You can find them on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation or just go to the website, phlsportsnation.com. We'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, Adam. Real quick, we get into there were actually a couple of transactions that were Eagles related this past week. One of them being, this is sort of surprising. I think you were surprised too, that the Chiefs signed the offensive tackle Prince Tega Wanogho to their practice squad. And I remember we talked about it after they had signed a couple of futures contracts that they didn't sign him to a futures deal. So here's a 6th-round pick. Now, I know the percentages of 6th-round picks are not great, but this guy was supposed to be a project. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't see it through. And in the bigger picture, that's your 6th-round pick that you let go. Your 7th-round pick, Casey Tuhill, you wind up cutting him. He signed with Washington. Noah Togiai was a priority free agent that you signed, had a good camp.
That was not a good one. That was a mistake. Togiai, that was I don't know what happened with that. We detailed it when it happened. That was not good because he had a great camp. But Wanogho, it's funny. So I posted it on Twitter on Saturday, and I actually almost didn't do it, but I figured Eagle fans. I got a lot of Eagle fans who follow me, so I must have put it up there. So I thought nothing of it. So I happened to see a bunch of mentions on Sunday morning when I got up. I'm like, what the hell? I to the point where I thought something happened. Like what? I just was not understanding. I see like 100 and some odd likes for this. I'm like, what the hell? But what it was is he's an Eagles draft pick. So we already know that they missed on Tuhill and Wanogho. Okay, 6th and 7th rounder, not a big deal, but it is a 6th rounder, Wanogho. This is a team that needs depth on the offensive line. I totally get it. He's a long-term project. Not going to be ready to do anything for at least a couple of years. The only reason why I've signed that he was added late to their 53 is because they ran out of linemen. Mm-hmm. But that was it. And then Kevon Seymour was interesting. They cut him off of IR, and then he cleared, and then they signed him to a reserve future contract, so he'll be with the team in the offseason.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty interesting. I mean, they need cornerback depth, and he got a little bit of experience in there.
Did some good things.
Yeah, did some right things. Might as well bring him back. I spoke to the Chiefs a little bit about Tega Wanogho and why they would sign him, and what they told me was they had a pretty good grade on him coming out of the draft. Remember, some people thought he would have been I'm not saying the Chiefs did. I'm just saying that he had this reputation that he would have been a 3rd-round pick or somewhere in that 3rd or 4th if he didn't have he's got a rod in his leg, right?
Yeah.
And at the combine, did he not go to? He went to the combine, but didn't do anything, or did he not go to the combine?
I don't remember, but I remember putting it out there that probably on our show because I knew nothing about him when they drafted him. Just knew he went to Auburn, so I checked, and pretty good personnel source said, he's got a rod in his leg. It's going to be a long time before he gets it all back, and then plus he's a project anyway. Right. But he's got so much talent. He's really gifted.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, he's a long-term project. That's why he was a 6th round. 6th round.
Why wouldn't the Eagles have just signed him to a futures deal?
I agree. Obviously, Stoutland clearly didn't want him because it's all relative. We will get into Stoutland before we get out of here.
Yeah, that's true.
But we'll see if he's back. But that I agree. You make a fair point. I don't quite understand, but they clearly didn't see enough out of him.
Right. All right. Well, maybe I'm trying to think. Maybe they did, and then there was more of an allure to be on the Chiefs practice squad from a financial standpoint than signing a futures contract. I don't know. I'm trying to just figure it out. But I do know that I believe he did go to the combine, Adam, but he didn't work out because I think he had his knee drained or something of that nature. So again, 6th-round pick. It's not like the end of the world, but when you package it with the fact that the 7th-round pick and the priority free agent that they really liked all were not kept. And this is a team that's trying to get younger and turn over roster. You just wonder why they couldn't have just signed the guy to a futures contract. Like, well, what is it that they didn't see? Exactly. But we digress. All right, let's get into some of the head coaches here. So as far as the candidates, candidates and the new list, I think we talked about most of the guys that were early on.
I have some new notes. Okay, I definitely have some new notes.
Who do you want to start with?
Kafka. Here's what I'm going to add. Dan Campbell's going to be the Lions head coach. So now that they can negotiate with him, that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So Mike Kafka is a potential OC for him. So I wouldn't, from what I'm hearing, he's a potential OC. I'm sure Dan's got his own list, but I've checked into it. Kafka's a possibility because he's not calling plays in Kansas City, so he certainly would be calling plays if he became the Lions OC. So we'll see what happens there. And although, I mean, I detail this on one of our shows, he's not only is he their passing game coordinator, he and Andy are the pass game developers on that team. So that, and I understand the Eagles seem to be like the only team that is interested in interviewing him. That doesn't mean they're not right. They're obviously right because the passing game means everything to the Eagles. We know that. That's kind of where they're at with that, and we'll see if Kafka gets the interview or not. But whether they want to hold on for Kafka or Eric Bienemy, who's new to the list.
Yeah, Eric Bienemy, we saw that. But going back to Kafka, would it be telltale if he wound up taking the offensive coordinator job in Detroit there over the head coaching job? Not that it's been offered.
If he gets an offer to, yeah.
That would be fairly telltale, but we're far from that point. I went back because last podcast, I believe I said, Adam, that I don't know about the actual fit other than the fact that he comes from the Kansas City chain there, and the offense is something that, of course, Jeffrey Lurie would want to bring to Philadelphia, but he's not. I said that the Chiefs and him, I don't see the whole analytics thing, meshing as well as it did with Doug, who definitely was into that stuff. And I double checked on it. And again, this is true. The Chiefs do not incorporate analytics the same way the Eagles do, including game day calls. They don't.
Was that right? Wow.
Game day analytics the same way that the Eagles did. Yeah.
You and I know this. They're heavy. And Peterson's talked about it before. In 2017, it was really heavy.
Right.
Well, that's interesting. Well, look, if you want to coach here, whether it's Josh McDaniels or whoever, we'll get into McDaniels in a minute, or Bienemy, whoever, you better embrace analytics in terms of game day play calling. It's really important to Jeffrey Lurie. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth or their identity. It doesn't mean Kafka can't be sold on it, or maybe he does love it. They just don't do it there. I don't know.
Right.
I'm just telling you that's not what they do there.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So, because, we got bloggers and people who run with what we say. So I got to be clear on.
Welcome to the club, my friend.
Yeah. By the way, nice job by you. Good report on who did you say Dave Ragone was going to follow?
Dave Ragone is going to go with barring something unforeseen, is going to go with Arthur Smith.
Yeah, that was a good call by you. Somebody else reported that way after, but you were the first. I know that. So.
It's been such a crazy weekend. But anyway, yeah, Arthur Smith. See, here's the thing about Arthur Smith before we go to the next name.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's smart. I get he's got a lot going for him, but I just didn't see the match from a conceptual standpoint for offense.
Right.
Because he was married. It wasn't his problem. He was given a great running back in Derrick Henry. You're limited to what you can do as a play caller. Everything's based on the run game, where the run game with the Eagles is a byproduct of their pass game.
Right.
And there's a difference. Their identity, the Eagles' identity, it wasn't this season because they were a mess on offense, but their identity has been and always will be the pass game. So, but I get it. Smith was a hot candidate. I mean, he was the guy. Everyone I trust around the league said this guy is the guy.
Wow.
The guy. Bienemy was not too far behind, but I don't know what's going on with him. We'll talk about him in a second, but that's where that's at.
Right. It does feel like, I mean, if you're to read tea leaves with almost all of the candidates for the job, they come from teams that are known for great passing offenses, not great running offenses. So, and I think we've talked about them before. Jeffrey is enamored with innovation and having a top 5 offense. And, you don't usually see a whole lot of that from a run first team. So I agree with you why it may not have made the most sense, but I don't knock Arthur Smith for just, doing a great job with the personnel that he was given either. So,
he did a phenomenal job. I mean, he learned on the run how to be a play caller. He had never called plays before 19. And he just did the first half of his first season as a play caller was a little sketchy. And then he really got it going and did a great, and the thing I like about him, as the Titans told me, is he's really inclusive. He knows the guys who are smart on the team that he needs to listen to. And he took their information in, just like, now, in 2017, Peterson did a smart thing. He listened to his coaches and said, hey, they split up the responsibilities in terms of third down and red zone and typical, just listening and taking in what was doing a good job of filtering. And you saw the offense was just, it was just incredible. No one could stop. The thing about that offense was you would hear from other teams, Geoff. I know you heard the same thing. They would tell me how simplistic the Eagles offense was. I'm like, why the hell could you stop them? I mean,
well, sometimes when you got the right talent, the right play calls, right?
Yeah, I mean, but they'd run some of the same plays, but in a different way. Like they would go, "Oh, we've seen this before." Then why the hell do you stop it anyway?
There you go. Let's move on to the 2 weekend guys, Eric Bienemy and Josh McDaniels. First with Bienemy, because I think people were, we all thought that might happen anyway when Doug was fired, and it took a while, but I guess they put the slip in there. What do you think?
Well, they can't interview him yet until until they're done. But
right.
Here's the thing about Bienemy, and it's ridiculous he has not become a head coach yet. But when you just talk about qualifications, former player, total command. If you talk to the Chiefs, they'll tell you total command. I don't care if he's not called plays. It doesn't matter to me. I'm okay with a CEO head coach where you bring in your own play caller, and obviously because of his experience in the run game, he certainly can help. Total command, players he's got total buy-in. It just comes to the point. Either he's not interviewing well. There's some other reason why he's not getting a head coach, because it's just to the absurd point. He can't. There's nothing else he can do.
I agree.
I don't know.
I agree. By the way, 2 of the best coaches in the league are CEO head coaches. One is John Harbaugh. The other is Pete Carroll. Right? They're not play callers.
I would actually say this. Pete at times is called their defense.
Okay.
Right. But I get it. There are some times when he's CEO. Tom Coughlin didn't call play. He coaches coaches. Okay,
mm-hmm.
Coached hard and he coaches players hard, as we know. But look, it's fine to me. I think the days of it mattering whether you called players or not, Andy Reid's the best example. And we're hoping to get Joe Banner on soon for ITB TV, because I want to go over that. Because Joe's if you follow him on Twitter, he's got some great stuff on coaches. He's involved in coaching searches. He's been a consultant for teams, Atlanta and some other teams, and love to get his thoughts on all this.
All right, well, we'll see. Wait, did the Bienemy interview happen? No, he can't. It can't until, of course, they're eliminated. Right, right. Josh McDaniels.
Good luck for that.
Yeah, I know. It could be.
Although, man, if Mahomes is not available,
that is a good point. And even if he is, that Bills team is nothing to be.
No, and that game, by the way, that game that they played was a reschedule. Rainy night in October, I think it was. It was awful. Yeah, it's just there's no quarterback playing better now than Josh Allen, and I should say Aaron Rodgers is, but in terms of the AFC, I would actually say Josh Allen's been playing better than Mahomes of late, but it doesn't matter. They're going to play each other, and we hope Mahomes is playing. It'll be a great game.
I certainly hope so, and we're getting a lot closer to my dream Super Bowl matchup of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers.
I got it wrong.
Rodgers, Mahomes.
I got it wrong. I had preseason. Last year I got it right. No. Last year I had it Eagles, Chiefs, and I picked the Chiefs to win it. I got that right. But this year I picked the Saints. I'm done with the Saints, man. I should have listened to you. I've had it with them.
Well, I forgot what my preseason pick was, but somewhere around week 9, I'm like, I really would like to see Packers Chiefs now.
I've had it with I don't understand it, man. This is not that Sean Payton's going anywhere. He's not, but Dennis Allen's a pretty good D coordinator. I don't blame him. Obviously, Breeze had a bad game, but my God, what has happened to this team?
I don't know. It's kind of mind-boggling, but I am, I always like seeing the future of the league change, and clearly now the Saints are moving on in a different direction, and it'll be fascinating to see if Peyton can kind of rebuild it with a different quarterback. Josh McDaniels, he was late. All of a sudden it's Saturday and it's like, bam, the Eagles want to interview Josh McDaniels. It's like, what the hell did you wait a week for? I mean, you could have interviewed him the day after you fired Doug Peterson. You could have interviewed him that day if you wanted to.
Yeah, I heard a couple days before the actual interview, I'd heard the Eagles were on him. He is a polar. I looked at my Twitter when I put that out on Saturday. Oh my God, people! I understand some of it. Let's get into the weeds here. Let's be. We're going to call this down the middle, folks. I don't know Josh McDaniels. I've never met him, but we're going to give you detailed information. Let's go back to Denver when he was a head coach. Geoff, 32 years old, head coach of the Broncos with full personnel control. Absolute mistake by ownership. They never should have done it. Way too much to give a guy. Yep. I know he was the hot candidate then. I totally get it. No wonder kid. This was Sean McVay before McVay. I mean, I get it, but it was too much too soon. He did not do a good job there. We know about Tim Tebow. That was a mistake. His evaluation of Tebow was way off. But I've talked to Jim Miller, who was a Patriot and was coached by Josh. I've talked to a bunch of people have worked with him. He's a brilliant guy. There's baggage. There's no way. You can't deny it because it's a fact. Right. He had issues in Denver. There's some stuff out there. If you want to go read about him, go ahead. I'm not going to go. We don't have a lot of time. We're not going to spend an hour on this guy, but he's a brilliant guy. His development of the slot receiver is legendary. It came from Patriot source told me in a meeting that they had before they traded for Wes Welker from the Dolphins. Belichick saw the future of the slot position. They're going to control the middle of the field, plus obviously Gronk with the tight end. And Josh was the one who developed that slot position with Wes Welker. Then later, the great Julian Edelman, and obviously Gronk. So the guy's a pretty darn good coach. Now we have the Denver stuff, which is the big negative. It's a fact. We're not going to deny because it's a fact. Then the other negative, okay, the agreeing to a deal with the Colts to be their head coach, then backing out of it for hours after. Now, the thing that pissed the Colts off is they announced it. Can't do that. No. Oh man, I saw my mentions on Saturday. I mean, it was, I don't want to respond to any of them, but I get there's a lot of venom after Josh McDaniels. And here's the thing, Geoff, there are a lot of Eagle fans who are pissed that they're talking to him.
They are. Now, my first reaction, Adam, was that this could either be a flirtation or helping him out. But then my second thought was that I know that, and so do you, that Jeffrey has always been.
Hang on a second.
Sure. Jeffrey has always been enamored with that New England Patriots offense.
Yes. So, by the way, Brandon Staley, according to NFL Network, is going to be the Chargers head coach.
Oh, so that now leaves
that frees up Daboll. Yeah, that's a stunt. Yeah, as we speak, as we're taping this.
Right.
Wow. We're assuming the report's correct. I mean, I have no reason it's sourced. So I mean, that's just reporting it according to on my app, my little text there. So
well, let me dial back then before we finish off on McDaniels, because we had talked about Daboll last week. Was he ever on the Eagles list? I don't remember now.
I know they did homework on him. So that there goes him going to the Chargers. Holy smokes. Tom Telesco, and I mean, it's not a secret in the coaching community. Telesco and Daboll are tight.
Right.
They grew up together. Man, that's a stunner there. I wonder what the hell happened there.
I don't know, but I thought we kind of felt that Daboll would not be a serious Eagles candidate for some reason. Like we just didn't think.
Well, no, what we didn't know was he going to the word in the coaching community was that did he want to be a head coach? And some people,
because he had such a great situation there in Buffalo. Yeah. I mean, I would think he'd want to be a head coach, but I mean, you never know. He may be the type of guy that is more selective about where he's going to be a head coach because he has such a great job out there in Buffalo and is basically the guy who presides over the offense. So I guess what we'll have to look for is now that he doesn't get the Chargers job.
Yeah, he could be in it. Yeah, sure.
On the Eagles radar.
Yep.
All right, back to Josh McDaniels.
Sorry to break in, but I was like, whoa.
No, we got it. Right?
Stunner. That doesn't usually happen. That is, that man, because it was reported on Saturday that Daboll, it was reported, but I was looking into it and I was told it's not, you can't say lock, but it was well down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened. That's interesting.
Well, it'll be interesting to see exactly the stories that come out in the aftermath of that. So my initial reaction was that Jeffrey's been enamored with that New England offense for a long time. He's always talked about it. Obviously, it's been an elite offense. And so here's a chance to bring in a guy who has, all the knowledge of how it runs. And as you mentioned, his development of the slot position and everything. So I started calling around a little bit. And later that night, maybe it was the next night, I forget. One of my better sources around the league said, you know what, that McDaniels to Philly, there's a lot of buzz about that. He said, there's people who think that this thing can really happen. And I was like, oh, well, okay then. All right.
if you look at our list, Kafka is still coaching. Okay. He's kind of, they're very intrigued. They want to talk to him.
Right.
Okay. Bienemy does not have the passing game background but he's a hell of a coach. Okay. He could just bring his own, he'd have to bring his OC in who's more of a pass game guy, but that's okay. Okay. So Kafka and Bienemy, Staley's gone. He's off the list. Lincoln Riley is not committed to interviewing, so he's off the list for now. Joe Brady is out there. They interviewed him. Kellen Moore, I can't remember. I know he's on their list to interview. I don't know if they interviewed him yet. And Duce is obviously, they interviewed him, Duce Staley. Mayo he's a defensive coach. He hasn't been coaching very long. Right. There are not a lot of names left. But if you look at the guys that would make sense of fit and what they're looking for, Josh McDaniels, I would put him at the top of the list for fit and the coaching experience. I know it didn't go well for him in Denver. At least he's been a head coach before. But the issue there is the baggage.
Right. Well, I also wonder if he's at all trying to use the Eagles as leverage to get his former GM over there, Nick Caserio, who's in Houston, to give him the Houston job.
Yeah, I think John McClain reported from the Houston Chronicle that's not going to happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know.
Which is interesting. I would think that.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah. Well, maybe that in itself is a little telltale. If Nick Caserio doesn't want to bring them there, and you alluded to the baggage, who knows? We'll figure that out.
He's a brilliant guy, and if you're going to interview him, I mean, I would think like this is a super duper long interview. I would think it would be at least 6 hours, 5-6 hours, because you got to get through the Denver stuff, you got to get through the Colts stuff, you want to learn about his whole career, the Denver stuff, the Colts stuff, and then working for Bill. Your belief in analytics, and obviously Ernie Adams is the guy there for Belichick. Ernie Adams, if you can look him up, folks, if you don't know who he is, he's Bill's analytics guy. Bill claims he doesn't like analytics, which is complete nonsense. Ernie is his whisperer when it comes to advanced work, tape study, and numbers.
There you go. I know people did. I'm glad you mentioned that because people asked us if once the McDaniel stuff leaked, if the Patriots were into analytics, and that my first thought was Bill saying, "What's analytics?" and then Ernie Adams somewhere in a room in up in Foxborough crunching numbers as we know that he does. Yeah,
he was in the Bill Belichick football life for it wasn't very long, and but they did have him in his office. They did talk to him or something for a very brief time. But anyway, he does exist.
No doubt about it. Hey, I just want to say this about the Lincoln Riley thing. Sure. I think it's kind of perplexing because at this point you would have thought if he was going to take the interview, he would have taken the interview. Because with the Eagles, if he wanted to, because it's important for these college coaches, Adam, to commit one way or another, because when they don't, and they leave this stuff hanging out there, these, you know how it is recruiting, man, these other coaches attack that stuff like shark to chum, right? Every coach in the Big 12 would be going calling up every recruit right now saying your guy's bolting to the NFL.
Right. Well, here's what happened with Bill O'Brien when the Eagles interviewed him.
Mm-hmm.
That was the issue in 2013, whether Brian was going to pursue the Eagles job or stay at Penn State. And I remember hearing this is going to be, I was told then that he was going to make a decision within 24 hours, just based on what you said. It's exactly, the recruits had to know, Penn State had to know, and it wound up, he decided to stay before it could get far down the road with the Eagles. But yeah, there's no question. If you're a recruit for Lincoln Riley, you need to know.
Right. So and I'm surprised he hasn't done it yet based on what I just said, but I'll leave the door open until I see him say publicly, I know there's a report that he's happy at Oklahoma. Of course, there's a report he's happy at Oklahoma. Why wouldn't he be? But until he publicly comes out and says, I'm not going to the NFL, I'm going to be the coach at Oklahoma, then I'm always going to think that there's maybe the door open here for this to happen, because as you and I know, the Eagles really do think the world of him and would love to be able to sit down and have an interview for him. We'll talk about a few more candidates first. Remember to download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that promo code ITB to get all your sign-up bonuses. That's code ITB to get all of your sign-up bonuses on the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. Trying to think, people are asking us a lot about Joe Brady, and I don't know. He interviewed, so I don't know where it stands. I don't know if you have any more information.
Yeah, I mean, I detailed everything I knew about it. I appreciate people quoting me on it. What I said was just to review. He's tried to put together an all-star cast of just really good assistants, but when you do that, I know the rules have changed. You have more leverage now to get coaches out of buildings because you can't block guys as long as before you could block anyone unless it was a head coaching job. Not anymore. As long as you could prove that you could give someone, you could get a a passing game coordinator out of the building and make him an OC without play calling, as long as you can prove it's got to be on the slip that you turn in, as long as you can prove that they're involved in game planning. That was the rule adjustment that was made I don't know, a year ago or something.
Right.
I read the memo months ago. I can't find it in my email, but I just remember coaches telling me that they were so happy that came out. Now that they know that they could leave if their team's not willing to promote them, they could go with a new head coach. So Brady is. I'm not saying he won't be the Eagles head coach, but I could just tell you he's super young.
Yeah,
he's got a long way to go. You would have to take a leap of faith, because the thing is, though, what's attractive for him is he's brilliant. Right. This is his first full year calling plays. But the big thing is he ready to manage people? Because this is folks, when you're a head coach, play calling is so it's just not the number one issue. Your number one is being leader of men, and coaching your coaches, as we've detailed now for 2 years with the former head coach Doug Peterson, and coaching your players. And oh, by the way, if you're a play caller, calling plays.
Yeah, there you go. There's a lot on the plate.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about Duce Staley, because he interviewed over the weekend, and I guess what fascinates me is, because he's been an Eagle for life basically as a coach, is that I have no idea what concept he would have as far as who to bring in for certain coachings, but I don't know his philosophy. I've talked to Duce a lot about, if he were ever to be a head coach, who would
the Chargers is they put out I got their statement. Yeah, they announced that he agreed to terms. That's unbelievable how quickly that came together. Sorry.
Yeah, that is really quickly. I've had a lot of conversations with Duce in the past, but that was years ago on guys he liked or what he would do. I know what he would be as a head coach. So I'm fascinated to know how he kind of projected himself in that interview.
Yeah, and he's the CEO head coach. He would have to hire his own OC and D coordinator. I don't know him, so I don't know who he knows around the league. But he's longtime assistant coach and player. The Eagles love him. They prevented him from leaving by you remember, they were not going to let Stoutland, Staley, in particular. They were the two guys they really, really wanted to keep from Chip Kelly's staff. And they think the world of him. I just hope that, depending on where the McDaniels things goes and whether they even get a chance to interview Kafka or Bienemy, I would hope that this time around, because the first time I wouldn't call it super serious that they were going to give him a real chance to get the job that went to Peterson. But this time, I do believe their interest is not that it wasn't sincere in 16, but I mean, who was Doug Peterson then? No, the Eagles were the only team interested in talking to him.
Right.
He was their fallback option.
Right.
Amazing what happens when that happens. But this time, to me, if you fast forward, why wouldn't he get a real shot here? I mean, he should, but I wasn't in the interview, so I don't know how he did.
There you go. All right, one last Eagles item before we finish this thing off is the report that I forgot to bring this up last week. The report that Geoff Stoutland is going to go be the offensive line coach at Alabama, and where he came from before he was here. That's out there. It's a little complicated because he's still under contract with the Eagles. We know that, but Bruce Feldman's a really good reporter, and when he usually says something's going to happen, something might happen. So you kind of wonder what's going on there with that situation. Do you have...
So I checked into it, and I've heard what Les Bowen put out there. There wasn't a done deal, but the word around the coaches is the way I had heard it is they're expecting him to go. There's nothing official yet, and as of, I'm going to say, Friday night, I checked into it. All the guys are still under contract. No one's officially left, other than, of course, the head coach. And typically, unless you just don't like the assistants, you at least let the new head coach take a look at these coaches and see who he likes and doesn't like.
Right.
But we'll see what happens. But he's a tremendous coach, man. He's a hell of a fight. I'll tell you what, people can say what they want about Chip Kelly, and we've said enough over the years. Some of his staff wasn't great, but there are a bunch of them that were really, really good, and that's why that 7 were retained from Chip's staff. Now, of course, some of them were low-level assistants too, but a bunch of them are really, really good.
Yeah, it's interesting because we did a year's worth of Sunday pregame shows, and one Trey Thomas is a guest on our show every weekend. Not just a guest; he's an analyst. He's part of the show, and he was a little more critical than most people are of Stoutland, not from a coaching, well, more from a technique, how he coaches technique and protection. development was never seemingly an issue for anybody because obviously a lot of his players have developed well on the offensive line. But that certain techniques, Trey thought was an issue. And,
it was keep letting the guy get into you, then hitting.
Right.
And which was interesting. Trey's the expert. So I remember Cosell telling me how much he learned from Trey with that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And the double underhand hooks is what you're talking about. Catching the pass rush.
Right. Catching. Right. And that's not for everybody, that technique, but it's worked. It's worked here by a large margin.
Yeah. I talked to someone who seemed to kind of agree with that sentiment that the guy is a great leader, a great coach, a good developer, but he does have a preference also that if the one thing you can tell about an Eagles offensive lineman since Geoff has taken over is that they're really big guys. I mean, he liked the big guys. Mailata is huge. Matt Pryor is a big guy. Big V is a big guy. Seumalo is a big interior offensive lineman.
Yes.
And you even go back
big
to
hair.
when exactly. Chance Warmack, you remember they brought him in.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Did Stout have him at Alabama?
Yes.
Okay.
He did.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see if a different offensive line head coach, because I don't want to say the league is trending this way, but there are some teams that will sacrifice the girth for the athleticism. Like Ali Marpet's a good example.
Late Howard Mudd.
Yeah, Howard Mudd, perfectly right. Although Howard sacrificed talent just to get apparently. Yeah,
he wanted his guy.
Kyle Devan out there. I mean, come on.
Right, smaller guys, athletic. Kelsey was a perfect example of it.
Yeah,
not Max Sheen Gillis. That was not a guy he wanted from what.
No, certainly not. But you do see a lot of a little bit smaller, more athletically gifted interior, especially offensive lineman. Ali Marpet's a good example, right?
Yeah, he's
not the biggest guy in the world, but he's so fleet of foot and he's got his technique down. So I just think it'll be interesting if Geoff Stoutland is not the offensive line coach anymore, what that means for all the huge guys that they do have and the new offensive line coach and what the philosophy will be. I'm always fascinated by new coaches and new philosophies, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. That's a great point. I look forward to seeing if it's McDaniels. I kind of have a pretty good idea from talking to people what the offense will look like. We'll deal with that if it happens, and we'll cover it like a wet blanket. I remember when I found out about what Peterson was bringing in. The first year was what I thought, but then they expanded in 2017. They did a lot more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, because what happened was more coaches were involved. He ran a spread West Coast in year one, and they did that, but they changed up a little bit more. McDaniels runs his offense. And if Bienemy got it, if Bienemy gets a job, he'll bring his version of Andy Reid stuff, his concept. So would Kafka. It's actually, I love that you brought that up. It's so fascinating to see. And then the best thing ever before we get out of here was when Chip Kelly became the head coach. If you remember, Geoff, they were such a phenomenon. Okay, what's this going to look like? The first the first OTAs were allowed to watch. I'm like, because they were still going quick then. I'm like, oh my God, this is pretty cool,
Yeah, it was amazing. I feel it's God. I feel old now. I can't believe we're going to be two head coaches past Chip Kelly sometime in
it's 8 years. This is 8 years now. God damn.
I'm getting older, man. So are you, by the way.
Thanks.
No problem. All right, listen. Support for Inside the Birds is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below the waist grooming. We got big news. Manscaped has released their new cologne scent to help you feel good and smell good all over at all times. Who knew smelling this good could feel this good too? All right, Adam, I stink. I'm just, I'm low maintenance, right? I wear the same clothes according to our viewers, so I must stink. Maybe I need to get myself some of this Manscaped cologne because apparently it's the best thing going. Everybody knows about it. And also everyone knows about Manscaped's Perfect Package 3.0 for all of your below-the-waist grooming needs. But they didn't stop there because they completed your grooming game with that new refined cologne signature scent that comes fresh from Manscaped. And with that same signature scent, same signature scent. That's a lot of alliteration there. With that same signature scent that's in all Manscaped formulas, this cologne is a perfect complement to the collection. Light, approachable, gentlemanly in all the right ways. Think of it as your wingman for the night to keep you fresh and ready for anything. Calming and inviting, this signature scent introduces, I should say, a light citrus burst before settling into the anchoring notes of vetiver and a woodsy masculine finish. This 50 milliliter spray cologne is even hypoallergenic, cruelty-free, dye-free, paraben-free, and 100% vegan. This beautifully designed glass bottle makes a statement, and the manly scent is attractive to set the mood. And also make sure you check out the Perfect Package 3.0 with all the essentials for your below-the-waist grooming needs, including the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer and crop formulations. That's right. I'm talking about ball deodorant and toner to keep your testes your besties. And now you can use the Manscaped Refined Cologne to complete your set and smell great anytime, anywhere. It's time to feel sexy, Adam. So get 20% off and free shipping with that code ITB at manscaped.com. Your balls and your body will thank you. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code ITB at manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com. Use ITB. Look good, smell good, feel good with Manscaped. You know, Adam, when I do that read, I think I went to 4 years at a pretty decent university, Penn State University.
Who knew?
I could get myself a nice college degree and eventually make reads about ball trimming. So that's great. It's good. I'm right where I want to be in life.
Exactly right. I would say, boy, I became a journalist to write in 250 characters. I mean, really?
Oh yeah, exactly. Right.
All right. This is where we're at, folks. I get it. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
There you go. No, we love Manscaped and their stuff.
Oh, they're awesome. Good.
Yeah, they have all their stuff. It's fantastic.
The 20% off. That's it. They still have the 20% off, right?
20% and free shipping.
Free shipping. Yeah. I don't know why more companies. No one should charge for shipping in this day and age. Are you kidding with the pandemic?
Totally agree. All right. I want to ask you something before we get out of here. Non-Eagles related.
Okay.
Urban Meyer, is this going to work or going to be a disaster?
For what? I like that. I will see. I think it's going to happen. I was told it should happen. Chad Henne should be his OC. It's not a done deal, but
whoa. Chad Henne?
Not Chad Henne. Scott Linehan. I don't know why I said Chad Henne. Scott Linehan. Scott Linehan. Okay. God,
much better.
Chad Henne. Here's what I'm looking at Chiefs quotes after the game, right. And I'm looking at Chad Henne.
Anything is possible.
No, but it should be Scott Linehan. Scott's done a good job with quarterbacks over there. He's a decent play caller.
Yeah.
It's just, look, a lot of it doesn't, more often than not, it doesn't work with college head coaches. There's been some good ones. Dick Vermeil was one, by the way, former UCLA coach, although he had worked for the Rams before that, if you really go back with the late great George Allen, I believe. Right. But he's an incredible football coach. Incredible. This is just a big step for him. But if you look at the cap space, most of the National Football League, most draft picks, okay?
Trevor
First
Lawrence.
pick overall.
I assume.
What's that?
I assume Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, I don't care how much he might like Justin Fields. No, it's not in his league. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it has to be. In fact, Shad Khan. I don't like when owners get involved, but honestly, Shad Khan has to make sure there's no debate.
That had to be in the meeting, like before he hired him. That had to be agreed on. I agree with you. Listen, people are going to think I'm wearing my Penn State bias here. I'm not. I think Urban Meyer's been a hell of a coach no matter where he's been. But when you're in the NFL, you're coaching, you don't have the great surplus of talent that you have at Ohio State or Florida because you recruited it all. You're all around the same level, and it's your job to outcoach the next guy. And that's where I wonder if Urban's going to be able to do that enough early on to keep him invested in the job. You know, he's got this kind of habit of saying, I'm done, I'm burned out.
Oh, well, no, he had the health, right, but he had the health issue.
The health issue, yeah, it's real. And then obviously,
and he's talked about that.
There was some baggage there, yeah.
Right, but the baggage, you could leave the stuff there because now he's an NFL head coach. It doesn't matter about with recruiting and any other issues that came up with him. The guy's a brilliant head coach, but again, that was college football.
Right.
This is the big boys here, the way you coach them. You also want to see what kind of staff he puts together. I want to see the whole staff. It's a great question. Mm-hmm. And I haven't been to Jags camp in the last 3 years. I'm very interested because they're going to have new personnel personal people there. And it's the hottest training camp ever. It's swampland in Jacksonville. It's all, they play in the old Gator Bowl. And it's not fun being there in the summer, man. It's the worst humidity I've ever been in.
Yeah.
Way worse than here. Even when it's bad here, it's like 10 times worse.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yeah,
I'm a little skeptical.
Are you excited about it? What do you think?
Well, I'm excited, but I'm also very skeptical. We'll have to see. Year one, I don't expect him to have a great team, although they had a good draft last year, some good talent.
Yeah, they do. There's a lot of young guys. Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And the thing is, before we get out of here, if you use the Spurrier example, okay, tremendous college football coach, one of the best of all time, terrible NFL head coach.
Right.
Wasn't willing to put the work in. His famous quote, like he couldn't understand why coaches would work late at night if that was ridiculous. Wish he wants to play golf, but
of course.
Yeah, some guys are just great college head coaches are not made for the national. Nick Saban, another guy.
There you go.
Brilliant, best coach in college football history, arguably.
Yeah.
I know you're a Joe Pa guy, but come on. Saban's the best.
I mean, I gotta get it's got 7 titles.
Yeah, Saban's the best. And it might different. The Breeze mistake would cost them. You never know. You never know. I got to run. Actually, I gotta get out of here.
All right, that's gonna do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer Hunter Brody. Check out his YouTube channel, Sports Talk with Broads, and check him out on Twitter @Broads81. And of course, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.